I don't have forgiveness for the triple Trumpers or any of the Trumpers. You did vote for this. He is a dementia-ridden, diaper-clad, cornball ex-TV host. You voted for this, and you got bamboozled, and I get it. Like, Fox News is a propaganda machine of Cocomelon brain rot for boomers. But, like, this is literally the result of employing and voting for losers.
Pop star and Arlington native Maren Morris there with a Monday moment of wisdom. I had to look up Cocomelon, by the way. It's a children's cartoon brand featuring fast-paced animation that's known to overstimulate young children and potentially afflict them with lifelong behavioral issues and shorter attention spans. That lines up with Fox News quite nicely, I'd say, the more you learn. It's Monday, March 9th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Here at Progress Texas, we built a statewide audience. We reach millions of Texans monthly, and that's thanks to folks like you who invest in independent progressive media by Texans for Texans. Our thanks to Kimberly Gerlich, Monica O'Neill, and Jacqueline Thomas for their ongoing sustaining support. As we reported here on Friday morning, Texas DPS, as quietly as possible and late on a Friday, have released body camera and security footage from the scene of the federal immigration officer-involved killing of San Antonio native and U.S. citizen Ruben Ray Martinez, a 23-year-old shot and killed in South Padre Island last year during a visit to celebrate his birthday. This video does not correlate with the official line that Martinez was gunned down after ramming his car into officers. In fact, it shows him driving slowly with his brake lights on, and does not clearly show him striking anyone. The released footage is from multiple angles but appears to be incomplete. It contains gaps, missing audio, and no body cam footage from the officer who pulled the trigger, as naturally he was not wearing one. The footage does, however, correlate with the testimony given prior to his own death a couple of weeks ago by Martinez's passenger in the car at the time, Joshua Orta of San Antonio, who stated that he did not believe Martinez hit any officer or that he had intended to do so. Lawyers for the Martinez family are continuing their argument that the evidence, at least that which has been released, shows no justification for lethal force, asserting that Martinez was braking rather than accelerating when the lethal shots rang out. Let us reiterate, the law enforcement agencies involved, including local South Padre Island police, have engaged in a multi-departmental cover-up of federal involvement in the killing of Ruben Ray Martinez, now considered to have predated the similar deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, becoming the first of the second Trump term for almost a year. Further, this footage makes it all the more puzzling that a Cameron County grand jury would have made the rare move to decline to issue a criminal indictment in this matter. Lummi Creel and Aiden Runnels of the Texas Tribune point out that this footage doesn't specifically prove that Martinez didn't hit anyone with his car that night. We might gently remind these journalists that the assumption here is innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. Ironically, Martinez's own parents are self-proclaimed Trump supporters who now find themselves having voted for a horror that has now enveloped their own family. South Texas Republican Congresswoman Monica de la Cruz may be similarly finding herself at loggerheads with her political affiliations, also related to the Trump immigration purge. Christian Riley Dutcher and John Paul Barajas at KSAT TV in San Antonio say that weird moment of cognitive dissonance arrives for de la Cruz as questions come from all angles about why a McAllen family who entered the U.S. legally were taken into custody during a routine meeting with ICE officers in February. Two members of this family are 18-year-old Antonio Gomez Cuellar and 14-year-old Caleb Gomez Cuellar, who have both gained prominence as members of McAllen's high school's state championship mariachi band and have performed on Capitol Hill just last year on the invitation of Congresswoman de la Cruz. This is yet another situation of egregious ICE abuse kept quiet until Bobby Pulido, the Progress Texas endorsed Democratic nominee to replace de la Cruz next year, posted about this case last week with help from independent journalist Cecilia Bali. Relatives say the Gomez Cuellar family fled violence in Mexico in 2023 using the now defunct CBP One app to migrate to the RGV. Many migrants who used that app were ordered to leave the country last year, but it remains unclear whether the Gomez Cuellar family were so ordered. Reports indicate the parents of this family had consistently attended court dates and ICE meetings as recently as January. Though a final hearing was scheduled for September, the family were suddenly summoned to ICE offices in late February with their sons, where they were all detained. Antonio, the older son, who has recently turned 18, is being held separately at the El Valley Detention Center in Raymondville, while the rest of his family is being held over 200 miles away at the notorious detention center at Dilley. San Antonio Representative Joaquin Castro has pledged to check on the family during a visit to the Dilley lockup today and to do all he can to get them out. Meanwhile, local pushback has arisen in Raymondville, the site of a protest yesterday, demanding justice and fair treatment for Antonio Gomez Cuellar. McAllen Mayor Javier Villalobos, also notably a Republican, has issued a statement emphasizing the balance between border security and creating lawful pathways for families who contribute to the local community, noting the importance of supporting individuals who want to work and become productive neighbors. Common sense stuff that, once again, he does not technically support via his party affiliation. Republicans appear well on their way to undermining themselves in South Texas for a generation. And let's throw this one in there, too. Icing on the cake this morning, if you'll pardon the expression, as part of an overall examination of the horrific filth and suffering occurring inside the Camp East, Montana ICE detention camp near El Paso, where detainee deaths have become somewhat commonplace, comes word from the Associated Press that federal guards there have been entertaining themselves by placing bets as to which of the detainees under their care will be the next to kill themselves. Texas has become the epicenter of a national humanitarian crime of potentially international proportions, the depths of which we'll likely never really see unless a watershed change comes in November. Speaking of which, Burgess Everett at Semaphore writes that Republicans continue awaiting a Donald Trump endorsement in the Texas Senate race, and the lack of a decision has already led to costly spending in the ongoing GOP runoff battle between Senator John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton. The entire point of a Trump endorsement was to circumvent a costly exchange of attacks, burning through GOP money and weakening the eventual nominee. But no, Trump appears to have been too busy starting World War III and getting some golf in to bother with Texas. Trump has, however, taken the time to emphasize his insistence that the Save America Act, currently held up in the Senate by filibuster, is now his top priority. And ahead of what's looking like a bloodbath for Republicans this fall, it's easy to understand why. This legislation would immensely expand the pool of voters whose eligibility might be even momentarily questioned, allowing them to be sidelined for the November election. NPR says Trump has threatened to withhold his signatures on all bills until Congress passes the SAVE Act, likely seeing it as his last hope of escaping accountability for his immigration crimes, his financial crimes, and his sex crimes. Let's recall that last week, Ken Paxton offered up a possible surrender in the race if the Senate would kill the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. That's both a gesture of loyalty to Trump and a challenge to John Cornyn, who's maybe still just sensible enough to understand the risks for the Republicans of doing away with the filibuster, but also maybe just desperate enough to please Donald Trump that he'd help move the nuclear option forward. Progress Texas is expanding our top-rated podcast network to include Spanish-speaking media to increase the reach of our progressive messages daily. Click the link in our show notes to make your donation towards Spanish media today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Monday, March 9th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared bold progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media in action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and a great week. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.